would like to start out with is, first of all, my name is Kindra Arnesen, and I am the outreach coordinator for Coastal Heritage Society of Louisiana. We are a new group, and I've been very vocal in our area. Most of the people in this room know who I am. I've had the pleasure of working with Mr. Lamont and some of the Coast Guard members and all. I have to say before I go any further at this moment, the people who have been on the ground, a lot of people have cut this out of the speeches that I have made. The people who have actually been on the ground in these offices have been there 12 to 20 hours a day, every day since this began. They are not the problem. The people that BP sends down into this room every single time that we all congregate together, they are not where the buck stops. They are in what's called a chain of command. So each person here has given up many days upon weeks, upon months of their lives to be here to do the best that they can do with the hand that they've been dealt. So I want to make that real clear, to give credit where credit's due to our local Coast Guard and the BP employees who have been here doing what they need to do. Now, with that being said, May 24th, the EPA come back after 70,000 gallons of dispersant was dumped in our precious Gulf, 30 miles offshore, as Captain Stanton told me from his own mouth. On May 13th, he told me that they were dumping it 30 miles offshore, 70,000 gallons as of May 24th. The EPA came back with a list of a dozen different alternatives and said they had to minimize the use after BP countered with, we're using this dispersant anyway. Since May 24th, 1,730,000 gallons by BP's admission has been dumped into the Gulf. May 24th was 1/3 of the time that this gusher gushed in our Gulf. 1/3. The remaining 2/3, there was 865,000 gallons of dispersant dumped per remaining third of time that this oil gushed into the Gulf. Therefore, it wasn't minimized, it was multiplied, not by 2, not by 4, not by 6, but more than 10 by the gallon, okay? As far as the medical concerns in this situation, I would be lying if I was standing here saying that I'm not worried about my finances. I have a 5 and 8-year-old, and I'm so worried about them so that almost 2 months ago, I removed my children out of the home with a man that they know and love as their father, who's in this room tonight. And I moved them 200 plus miles inland after my daughter broke out in 2 different rashes. And every time she would break out and I would take her from this area, it would go away. Now I am to the point to where I wanted to bring her home until this past week. This past week, I had the pleasure of joining this group, and what we found out after doing some water testing was that there were some things found in the water. This was not tap water, this was in fact rainwater that came in with Bonnie. We found out that the EPA was doing no rainwater testing, no tap water testing, or at least there's nothing on their website stating so. As the lady before said, a lot of their stuff that's coming out is pending litigation. So who do our agencies work for? The litigant or the defendant? That's number one question. When this water testing was done on the rainwater in Plaquemines Parish, in our efforts to protect the people, culture, and heritage of coastal Louisiana, we felt the need to fill the gaps in information that was being given to the general public. Not the EPA or anyone else, as I said before, has tested 1 drop of rainwater in the area after the spill. We knew that we had to do something. The test results proved interesting. You can read all about these results on our website at www.chslouisiana.org. But I will fill you in on some initial information. The samples showed very high levels of chloride. As a matter of fact, that's 650 parts per million with an M, not a B, not billion. 650 parts per million. Safety standard levels for EPA is only at 250 parts per million. That's more than 3 times. The samples also showed unusual levels of metals, including chromium, magnesium, aluminum, copper, and nickel. The lab was particularly surprised to find this in our rainwater. Again, it is important to remember 2 things about the compounds found. The metals were below the safe EPA standards. However, Our understanding is that they are accumulative. Over time, as we go on, they accumulate inside of our bodies, our food, whatever the case may be. In other words, if you were to get rained on by just the amount that we sent for sampling, less than a quart, no problem. However, as nearly daily in coastal Louisiana, the rain is falling on us, our crops, into our drinking water source, and on our children's playgrounds. As it accumulates, the problems become much clearer. It could affect the food we grow and eat, our groundwater, get absorbed into our skin much faster than the body can process it, and more. We are not scientists, but we are moms and citizens in the area. In the area, we trust into the role of advocating for the health and protection of others. One of our goals is awareness, and we feel the need to make everyone aware of this situation. It is our belief that these results warrant further testing, and we plan to continue our testing outside of EPA's bubble. However, we hope it also inspires the EPA and other agencies to do regular rainwater testing and publish the results in an easy-to-understand format to keep the citizens of our area aware and safe. As I mentioned early on, in spite of citizens' request of EPA, they have not tested one drop of rainwater in coastal Louisiana since the oil spill, and we would like to see continued testing done so that we can go about the business of helping people focus on our many other projects. As far as the rainwater, that was one random test that a group of wives in Plaquemines Parish decided to take it upon ourselves and do. That was the rainwater that came from Bonnie. Everyone called it a storm and said that that broke up the oil, and that the oil magically disappeared with Bonnie. Bonnie was a rain cloud that came through and dumped rain for about 30, 45 minutes in different spots depending upon where it was. This was not a hurricane. They sprayed dispersants while the boats were off the water to get rid of the remainder of the oil. BP did. And whoever else allowed that to happen, Coast Guard, whatever. I'm not trying to point fingers at people in this room. As I said, all of these people that we see here are in a chain of command, and I am for one who clearly understands this chain of command now. I didn't the day I first walked in to the BP operations station down here in Venice, but now I clearly understand this. Furthermore, the oil that is on the bottom of our estuary, our Gulf, and all over the place, this oil may have been broke down. Honestly, dispersant doesn't work on weathered oil. The paperwork says so itself. I found the literature. It doesn't work on weathered oil properly to properly disperse the weathered oil. They've been spraying on weathered oil since day one that they started spraying. Secondly, it doesn't work properly on oil that is sitting in turbulent water. Thirdly, it doesn't work properly it doesn't hit the oil. It goes everywhere when the wind's blowing. They've been allowed to spray this dispersant nonstop. But in order to move towards recovery, we have to find a way to get rid of the dispersed oil. The only thing that I have found, and I have looked high and low and had a crash course by thousands of people who are educated and scientifically, what I mean is scientifically educated, in other words, sir, in order to find a way that we could possibly get rid of this dispersant and the oil that they sunk in our Gulf and our estuary. The only thing that I have found that could possibly get rid of this is bioremediation. Now, I have not heard those words mentioned in this meeting or any other meeting for that matter that I have been to in the last 104 days. Bioremediation is something that the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fishery has a scientist who's had over 30,000 tons on pallets ready since day one of this oil spill, and they have used none of it. None of it. So you're our last hope, Mr. Mavis. You are our absolute last hope. We have to get above BP's in charge of our Gulf. This is our Gulf. I was raised here, taught not to throw so much as a Coke can behind here. You understand what I'm saying? I eat out of here. I feed my kids, my family, my friends, my neighbors. We're around the pot every Sunday. Bottom line is we have to have you to move forward, and part of long-term recovery is cleaning up the mess that's here now. We've already went some task force from 400 votes to 40 votes. They're laying people off right and left. U.S. Department of Wildlife and Fishery told me that by December that they're going to be completely gone. So, I mean, that's in December. We in August. That's just only a few short months away. That they said that they were the last ones that were going to be gone. And the man told me in December was his last month here that they was gone. So we have to start somewhere. We have to move forward. The shoestring boom, the absorbent boom is not going to work on the dispersed oil. Nothing else seems to work. We cannot leave it in the water. We're not going to be able to move forward with this in the water. And the only thing that I found that produces oxygen, it'll not only eat the oil, it'll also eat the dispersant, is bioremediation. We have to clean up the oil in order to move into long-term recovery. Now, building sand berms and putting sediment where it belongs, I'm not going to stand here and say I know one thing about that because I don't. But I know one thing about feeding people seafood. I won't go in the back right here in the bayou. I've been here all my life and go shrimping and bring the shrimp home and put them on a plate in front of my 8-year-old. There's no way. There's no way. Would you? You have grandchildren, sir? Would you go back here in the back and see the oil come up like Mr. AC just showed you in that Gatorade bottle, and then wholeheartedly put your grandchild down there, fry up some shrimp and say, here you go, baby, eat it?
I don't hear a word.
No.
What's the matter?
I don't hear a word.
I mean,
Be real.
I'm
Be
being
real.
I got a 9-year-old.
You got a 9-year-old?
I got a 9-year-old.
I'm sorry. So would you feed this to your 9-year-old?
If the FDA told me it was safe, yeah.
If you went shrimping with Mr. AC
I'm-
and
I
oil
don't know
comes
about-
up
I
with the
don't know
Gatorade
about- I'm
bottle,
talking about
would you take
if-
shrimp off of Mr. AC's boat? Right now, they saying that it's open and it's safe to
If-
eat. They saying it's safe.
If it was tested, yes.
Excuse me, sir.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious.
Go get him some.
Thank you for coming down, Mr. Mathis. With all due respect, I'm glad to see you here, and I really hope that you'll consider the scientific evidence in bioremediation. Look into these different things so that we can get rid of the oil that is there instead
you
of
can do your
continuing
job.
to dump things in the Gulf. I mean, you say all of this scientific evidence. Where was the scientific evidence when BP and the EPA was allowed to use the Gulf as a science experiment? 1.8 million gallons of dispersant on top of toxic crude. OSHA's words on their printouts say that this was not Louisiana sweet crude, but a much more toxic form. So, and I got that right out of OSHA's paperwork. So, toxic crude on top with toxic dispersant. How do we get rid of it? If we can't get rid of it, no matter how many sand berms we build out here, no matter how much grass we plant, how much sawgrass, no matter what we do, if the chemicals keep getting on it over and over again with every push that we have high tide, low tide, we have storms come through, we stick out in the middle of the Gulf, we get hit by everything. Every time a storm comes through, it's going to push what's on the bottom up into that grass. As it kills that grass off, like they were saying before, no matter how much we pump out here, sand berms, sediment, whatever the case may be, it's going to kill the grass, and then you have erosion. So no matter how much money we put into it, if we don't clean up what's here now, it's not going to do any good in the long term. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.